During my high school class project, my teacher told me it's unrealistic being a CEO. It's been my dream to be a CEO since I was 10. So I told her it is realistic. Follow me on my journey to learn what it takes to become a CEO. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. Today I'm here with Jawad. How you doing today, Jawad?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm great. I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to come onto the podcast. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in royalty presence. I got to keep it going over here.
For the first question I do want to ask you is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Yeah. My company's name is Tierbrook Financial. I'm a financial planner. So basically, I work with all sorts of clients, individuals. I specialize mostly with entrepreneurs, businesses, high corporate earners. So basically, when people think of like financial advisors or financial planners, they probably think of, hey, this is the guy that's going to manage my money. I do more of that in-depth financial planning. That's just one piece of the pie. So in regards to financial planning, it can be in regards to, hey, this is my business. It's a sole proprietor. It's a partnership. It's a nonprofit, right? It's an LLC. I'm making this amount. What do we need to do there? So it can be things like looking at, is business structure proper? So that's like corporation stuff. You can talk about like tax planning. Hey, my business makes this. I pay myself this way. Is this the best way to do it? What are these ins and outs? What are red flags? What can we do to save money on taxes? What are ways that we can help with planning? And then there's things like estate planning. There's things, if I pass away, like how does this wealth go on? Generational wealth's always big, or sometimes it's all, hey, I want to leave money behind to like charities. Hey, I want to leave money behind to like siblings. Hey, I have people that are on disability. If they get this money, this goes to zero, goes to the government. How do we protect this? Estate planning is very crucial, like life insurance, disability, things that like we never really talk about. They can be pretty uncomfortable at times, but they're very crucial, right? So me as a planner, I come in and try to address these red flags. And sometimes people may not be thinking about certain things. And that's where I'll come in and be all like, hey, I noticed we don't have this one piece of the puzzle correct. So every person's going to be different. Every business is going to be different. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. And that's why I love what I do, because it's always different for every person.
So can you tell us, like, how did you get into this industry? Was it something that you always wanted to do?
No, not at all. When I was in college at the time, I knew I wanted to do something business related. I started off at a community college. I'm from Connecticut originally, so I went to Manchester Community College. They had like an amazing 2-year transfer degree. I'm first generation. There's no money, nothing. I was like working and like doing all this stuff. So I was trying to figure it out. I was like, yeah, I think I want to do something business related, right? So took a 2-year degree. After the 2 years at MCC, I was all like, all right, I want to do either something accounting related or something finance related. So I transferred to Central Connecticut State University, and that's where I took a semester of accounting. And I was like, oh, I hate this. This is not for me, right? So I tried it, failed it. I was all like, all right, let's go to finance. Let's see what's up. Go do finance, figure it out from there. And I'm like, oh, wow, there's a lot to finance. And my brain is a little math oriented, but I never realized how big finance was. But for me, I thought I was like, hey, I'm going to go to school, and I'm from Connecticut originally. I was like, I'll go work for some like insurance carrier and I'll be like an actuary. I'll go work like for a corporate. This was like after 2010 and whatnot. And after 2008, the housing market crashed. The job market like took years and years. And again, I was first generation. I didn't really have a network or anything like that. So this kept getting rejected after rejection. And then it got to a point where I had an opportunity at the time I was working in retail. I had an opportunity to go work at a bank as like a teller. So I was all like, hey, if this is a way I can get in, get experience and start working my way up, that's what I'll do. I was a teller banker for 8 months. They promoted me to banker from there. And at that time, that bank that I was working at, they had an investment program. And I was like, hey, I'm a finance major. They looked at my numbers. I was good at what I working with people, met their numbers, all that. And they're all like, we can sponsor you, get you licensed and up and running. And so the rest is history. I kind of stumbled into it. And if you had asked me like back then during those college days, hey, would you expect yourself to be here? Never. I was on the banking side as an employee, and then I went independent, and here I am, and I'm never going back, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said when you first got into college, you were doing accounting, you hated it.
Oh, hated it.
So
I'm not a debits and credits guy. Yeah, I know my strengths and weaknesses, and that's part of being an entrepreneur. Failing is kind of honestly good for you because you learn from those things and then you can pivot and adjust as need be. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
that's okay. So I want to know, what's the difference between somebody that is an accountant versus somebody that's a financial advisor?
Yeah, so there's different types of accounting too, right? So I would say if you're dealing with CPAs, for example, certified public accountants, they work with either businesses, corporations, or anything, and some will do tax returns, some will do, hey, we're just going to balance out our books for this massive corporation or anything. So they're very analytical, they're in the books. So that's what a CPA does. A financial planner is more, hey, we'll help you manage the money, we'll do this planning for you, but we'll meet with, if I'm working with a small business, for example, let's just say it's an LLC, like, or if I was working with you and we're all like, hey, we need to do some overall tax planning. Let's get a meeting on the books. We'll meet with your accountant. We can tell them, hey, these are the things that we're seeing. What's your tax advice that you can give us based on these things that we're seeing? This is kind of what I'm thinking. And then we get the professional in and kind of structure it to make it work with you. So me as a planner, I'm not kind of I'm doing tax planning, but I'm not giving tax advice. It's kind of more, hey, these are the things I understand. This is like how a Roth IRA works, for example, with retirement, but this entity is like an LLC and doesn't need to be an S Corp to make sense. This is the general knowledge I have, but we should consult with a tax professional and just make sure that advice is sound and legit for that person. So that's the bare bones difference. But like accountants, there's plenty of different accountants, right? Just like there's plenty of different finance majors, right? There's like corporate finance, there's financial advisory, there's investment, like financial investment people. So it just depends on, there's corporate finance, like people like Warren Buffett who look through these annual reports and they're all like, hey, I see this company did X, Y, and Z consistently. These are the dividends, this is the debt, this is a company that's worth buying or selling. And sometimes those people will also work for a corporation. Just corporation will sometimes say, hey, we have X amount of money, right? How do we allocate it to wherever it needs to?
So as somebody that works with businesses and helps them with their finances, all that,
Sure.
what are some things that you notice? What are some common mistakes that business owners do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've seen it all. I've seen poor bookkeeping. I think at the end of the day, what ends up happening is like most business owners that go into business are passionate about what they do, right? And they have their strengths and their weaknesses. Sometimes they scale up or they get too big and they're still doing everything and they never delegate, right? So I'll see business owners with poor bookkeeping. So if they come in, they're all like, hey, I need help. I'm like, all right, great. What's the business doing as far as revenue goes? What are we expensing? What are we paying for? What is our net profit? And if you don't have good books, then there can't be any planning done, right? So I've seen a lot of poor bookkeeping. Business structures. I've seen people love LLCs, right? I'm sure you've interviewed with a lot of people and you've probably seen a lot of partnerships, LLCs, sole proprietors, whatever it may be. But in the scenario with LLCs, people think it's this magic, holy grail business entity. And a lot of times that may be the case, depending on the type of business. I'm not saying it's bad, but at the same time, sometimes when you involve tax planning and depending on, does the business have employees? Is it just yourself? Sometimes an LLC may not be the right choice. So a lot of times when I meet with business and I'm like advising business clients, I'm like, all right, let's just start from the basics. How did we set this business up? Where did we get this idea of coming into entrepreneurship and what was the mentality of it? And do things need to pivot or adjust to make it more financially, what's the word for it? Financially fiscal, responsible, and also make it more advantageous for you as a business owner. You're working hard. You want to keep more of your money than give it back out, right? So again, tax planning comes in. Sometimes liability protection, and sometimes it's even just basic budgeting. A lot of times in America, you're young enough, so you probably saw this going in through the school systems. There's no education on budgeting or like finance or money, right? So I try to break that a little bit. But yeah, so there are a lot of things I see, but those are like the major ones.
So something that caught my attention. You said sometimes businesses, they shouldn't be looking to create an LLC for the business. What are some businesses that you've seen maybe an LLC isn't stuff that you need right now or something that you should be focused on right now?
Yeah, if it's just a simple startup and it's going to take a bit to get revenue up and running. For the state of Massachusetts, if you go to register an LLC, right, I think it's $500 to set up an LLC. And then every year you also have to pay the annual fees to keep that business active within the state of Massachusetts, right? Let's just say it's a startup company, there's going to be a lot of upfront costs and there's no revenue coming in or very little revenue coming in. Is an LLC needed or could you make it work as a sole proprietor? And then I'll give you the opposite. Let's just say, I'll give you an example. I have a real life client. I won't name names because anonymity and whatnot, but they started off as a sole proprietor. And I see this a lot, but this one scenario started off as a sole proprietor. After his year went by, this was like year 2 or 3 in the business. After expenses and everything, he had about gross profits around $80,000 to $90,000. So as a sole proprietor, basically, or as an LLC, and if you're like a single member, all of that money is going to you have to pay taxes on it. So it's federal taxes, state taxes, and then you also have to pay FICA taxes, which are self-employment, Social Security, and Medicare, right? So in that scenario, he was making enough money, and I'll just kind of keep this very simple. It didn't make sense to be an LLC because on a tax planning perspective, since it was just himself, it was more advantageous and he could pay himself the same amount, but pay less in self-employment taxes if he was just as an S Corp. So we met with an accountant and said, hey, does this make sense? The accountant was all like, yeah, this should be the case. And even if he makes that same amount of money, which I think he's on track for this year, the tax savings of how he compensated himself by just being an S corporation instead of an LLC, which again, like people don't know this stuff, but the draws versus the payroll saved him about, I'd say about anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 for the year without him having to work any harder, having to go out and make that extra $5,000 or $6,000. So business structure sometimes is like very crucial of like business entities of like how we're operating as a business. And then based on that, how we compensate ourselves and whatnot. So the IRS has different compensation guidelines. So S Corps are like that. There's like C Corps, there's partnerships, and you can stack these things. It can get very complicated, but that's just another example.
When you're seeing some people's books and you're seeing things that maybe they're doing wrong that they could become more profitable. What are some common things that you notice when businesses can become more profitable?
Yeah, sometimes it's not even about profit. Sometimes it's about liability. And I would say sometimes it's even about how can we maximize that dollar the most efficiently? If I'm spending this $1 and I'm using my business debit card, which is coming right out of my checking account to pay for this one thing, does it make sense to maybe utilize business credit using a business credit card, for example? That will give you rewards. Let's just say it's 1%, 1.5%, 2%, whatever. Does it make sense to spend money differently, get rewarded for those things that builds back an asset for the business or the individual? So sometimes it's not always just about profits. You got to look at all things encompassing, right? Sometimes strategizing about how to utilize debt can be more beneficial too for the business. Sometimes people shy away from debt, and most of the times I get that, right? We want to minimize debt as much as we can, but sometimes for business purposes, debt's sometimes good. And I would say on the personal side too, it just varies. But so yeah, it can be like things like credit cards, or it could be things like, hey, I have this very antiquated payroll software, it does nothing for me. I'm busy and I'm on the road all the time, and can I make this easier, right? So technology has advanced so much, things have gotten much cheaper because of technology. A lot of payroll software out there that you can just use for yourself, which is very minimal and cheap. So it can be things like, hey, what are we paying for our bookkeeping? Do we need those extra features? Hey, what are we paying for payroll software? So those are just a couple examples.
How did you realize that you wanted to be a financial advisor? Obviously, you say you didn't like accounting, but how did you get into working with businesses yourself?
Yeah. So when I was on the banking side of things where I got licensed and up and running, what ended up happening was When you work in the bank channels, a lot of these local banks, unfortunately, ended up being where banks would get swallowed up, acquisition after acquisition. Some banks cared about their programs, some banks not so much, right? So there may be, hey, we want to prioritize being a bank, so we want to prioritize our ways of making revenue, which is like deposits. Get the money into the bank, let's hold it in our bank accounts. Hey, we want to lend that money out to businesses, so focus on lending, right? If it's to small businesses or like commercial businesses or whatever. And then the investment side was just like, hey, we make money from this, but it's not as much as we want, and we want to focus elsewhere. So some banks cared, some banks didn't. And then what I found out was I was all like, I'm doing this as an employee. I'm young enough. Why not just go independent? And I know the risk is big there because in my field, when you're dealing with money management and stuff, you're not making a lot of money on the upfront. So I prepared myself as best as I could. And I was all like, hey, I'm just going to go this route, work my way towards being independent and try to set myself up for as much success as I could and realize, hey, if it fails, but hey, I got to go for it. And if it succeeds, great. So yeah, went independent after leaving the bank side of things with the bank channels. And what I realized was in working for myself, you like going back to, hey, you like fail and do things. Every year I was all like, what can I do better? What didn't work well? And I love just learning about stuff, like different stuff. So I mastered specific niches. And then what I found was this one niche of, hey, like entrepreneurs sometimes may be too scared to talk about their failures or realizing that, hey, maybe I'm not doing this as well as I need to. And so having someone that they can go to as a safe space to be all like, hey, this is unbiased, but I need help. Can you help me out with some planning here and whatnot? And I realized no one was really doing that in this area. So I specialized that over the last couple of years and I've just gotten busier and yeah, it's been good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So before we continue,
Sure.
I want to read my book. I am a
Yeah, I'm excited.
realistic CEO. So
Okay.
the book, it starts off as Tony. He's the main character. He
Okay.
wants to become a CEO.
Okay.
But he starts it by having his own lemonade stand. By the end of the book, he ends up turning that lemonade stand into successful business. So that's kind of just
Yeah, love it.
in the sunny town of Dreamville, there lived a boy named Tony with a big, bright dream. One day, in Mrs. Parker's class, Tony announced, when I grow up, I'm going to be a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer. Mrs. Parker smiled and said, that's a big dream, Tony. Maybe think of something a bit more realistic. Tony's eyes sparkled. But it is realistic. I have a plan, he said with confidence. I will read lots of books and learn about business, Tony explained, holding up a book titled Lemonade Book. And I will practice by starting a lemonade stand. It will be the best in town, said Tony, while sharing a drawing of his stand. All right. Mrs. Parker was surprised. That's quite a start, Tony. But being a CEO is more than lemonade. I know, Tony nodded. I will meet and interview successful CEOs, business owners, founders, presidents, executives, and community leaders. I will learn from them. I'll learn to make good decisions and solve problems. Tony continued, I also learned to be kind and help others, just like a good leader. Mrs. Parker smiled. Tony, I think you just might be a CEO one day. With a beaming smile, Tony said, I'll do the LBW and I'll practice the 5 types of work. They are work hard, work smarter, work right, network, and teamwork. You'll see, Mrs. Parker. Years later, Mrs. Parker read a newspaper with a familiar face on the cover. Tony, CEO of More Than Lemonade Inc. She remembered the little boy with the big dream. He did it, she whispered with pride. Back in Dreamville, Tony, that was CEO smile. Dreams do come true with the 5 types of work, along with self-belief in action, the LBW, the long, lonely, and boring work. And in his office, the drawing of his lemonade stand hung on the wall. Remember, no dream is too big if believe in yourself, are willing to work for it. Create a simple, realistic plan and follow it through to execution. Everyone has a special dream that can change the world. What's yours? That's the book.
I like it. LBW, huh?
Yep.
Long, boring work. I feel like that's a great motto when you're starting off. And sometimes people will try to put you down and stuff, but people don't realize that long, boring work that you're doing, right? It can be at nights. It could be you're like, I'm here sometimes till 7, 8 at night. It's all, oh my God. But these are things you do to build up your business, right? So yeah, that's admirable.
So yeah, really what we do is go into schools. We're really, like you said, the LBW, we're really helping those kids realize that you have to be able to put in the long, lonely, boring hours to become successful. And then we're also teaching them financial literacy.
Sure.
Budgeting, because like you said, in schools,
Sure.
you don't really learn that stuff. So our goal is to really go into these schools and help these kids with the simple stuff that you aren't learning in school.
Yeah.
Like really creating plans. How do I create a plan so when I'm done with high school, college, or even middle school, how can I become successful in my future?
Sure.
I mean, that's amazing. So I want to ask you a couple of questions based off of the book.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk about the 5 types of work. I want you to just answer what each word means to you. So we're going to start off with working smart. So what does working smart mean to you?
Not working hard. So putting in roadmaps and plans so you can work smarter, make your life easier whether it's on a personal level or business level, I'd say.
The next type of work is working hard. What does working hard mean to you?
Working hard is the LBW, I'd say. You're putting in that time if you're especially starting off from scratch, right? You're putting in that time and effort. It doesn't just come nothing unless you have an amazing network and you're going to get that business, right? It's going to be very hard to do that. Yeah, hard work.
So the next type of work is working right.
Working right. I think that's good. You can answer that a couple ways. I'd probably say being generous with your knowledge. Not just sometimes business owners will be like, yeah, I can help you with that, but I'm going to charge you $500 an hour instead of if it's an easy answer. Sometimes you just got to leave the ego at the door and you just got to do what's right for people. And I think the business always comes one way or the other, whether it's the karma or whatever you want to believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next type of work is networking.
Networking, yeah. You can be good or bad at it, right? It's crucial, though, I would say. What I was telling you, if you don't have a network, it's going to make your journey that much harder. So you want to start trying to network with people, and I was terrible at it. And sometimes I'm still terrible at it, but I would say just getting out there, just talking to people, see what works, what doesn't, and just, again, same thing, just be kind. Be a normal human being, right?
Yeah. And then the final type of work is teamwork. So what does teamwork mean to you?
Teamwork's crucial. Some of the advisors I partner with through the broker, they'll bring in specialists, so they'll bring me in if they're all like, hey, this is a planning conversation. Can you help us with this? Or even for me, I'm hiring an admin now to help me. I need that teamwork. You just got to delegate stuff, as I would say, a presidency, stuff like that. You could do it all, but then there comes a point where it's all, is this worth that time, value, money? So I would say that kind of also goes back into working smarter. You want to just kind of have a good team to support you and rely on, because you can't really do it all. Really can't.
So thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, next is LBW. Can you tell us the LBW that you had to do inside of your career and also your journey?
Yeah, I would say it probably shines more so when I went independent. I just started working for myself and building my book of business and working with different clients, individuals at the time. I was working with a lot of educators and stuff like that initially to just help support them. So LBW, a lot of that was like initially, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was working long hours, and then even with COVID, just virtually, and it was like working at home. Sometimes you didn't even realize how fast time went by. Like I worked like 14 hours. So what happened? Sometimes very terrible work-life balance too comes from LBW, but I would say depending on the type of business, it's very crucial. And sometimes you may have to prioritize that business side initially to build towards that work-life balance, I'd say, which that's what I thrive for. And there's days where I'm still terrible at it, but I strive for that work-life balance as much as I can.
So for somebody that you're talking about, you want to have a good work-life balance, but
Yeah.
some days it just doesn't happen like that. So how are you able to make sure that you are able to balance it?
Calendars, if it's on my calendar, I'm not doing it. I'll try. Having an office is actually a really great example. Here we are, right, in Urban Co-works. Having that office where you can go do your stuff, and then when you're all like, I'm leaving the office, even if you work late, where you're all like, I'm just shutting it off. And I'm just going to focus on just being home and being present, right? Whether it's with your family, spouse, whatever it may be, right? So for me, that had been very essential. With initially, I was working from home, or I was like meeting people at their houses or like wherever. Now having a central space to just meet and talk to people and being able to shut down at the end of the day, even if you work late, right? Like an LBW strategy, it's just it's very crucial, I think. How about yourself? How do you manage LBW? Or how do you manage work-life balance?
So for me, like what you said, what calendars, that's been my biggest thing on how I'm able to make sure that I'm balancing, because I'm a full-time student as well.
Yeah.
So calendars have definitely been like my biggest thing to help me.
Yeah. So you're taking classes with different schedules, and then you're running around doing interviews and stuff. I think your dad told me about your nonprofit side too, right? There's a lot of moving parts, right?
Yeah.
It's busy.
Yeah.
Busy work.
Definitely.
How do you do it all? That's work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
Do things struggle with you? Like sometimes, do you see things slipping or anything like that?
Yeah. I was definitely slipping on my schoolwork the past couple weeks. I've been making sure that
Okay. All right.
I've been getting all that stuff in.
So, yeah. But the school stuff, like sometimes people are all like, hey, why do I have to do this? But I would say just having general knowledge about certain things may help in different scenarios, different for you, especially if you're working with different business, talking to different business owners and stuff, right? You have different background knowledges, right? Compared to some people are like, why am I taking this history course? Or like, but knowledge is always power. Like I always go down YouTube rabbit holes but yeah, no, that's fascinating. I would say I haven't mastered it, but every year I just try to be a little bit better. And I think that's all you can do, right? Just try and see what works, what doesn't, and just keep going.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I just have a couple more questions.
Yeah. Keep them coming.
So what is some advice that you would give to your 19-year-old self?
Keep going. Keep going. Yeah. I'd say I was very discouraged in college because there were all these opportunities that I saw where people had similar skills, such as myself, similar resumes, and they got these opportunities that I didn't. And I was like, what am I doing differently? And there could be various factors to it. So I won't say this person did something bad or whatnot, but I was very discouraged at that point. And to just see where I am at this point, and even what the future entails, I would never have imagined that I'd be where I am. And a lot of that came through the people that you're around. A lot of that is just work ethic. A lot of that is just not giving up, and just honestly, a lot of it is failing. And again, just going back to just keep on going, just keep plugging away. So I'd say, yeah, just don't give up. Just keep chugging along. Things will work out one way or the other. Life happens, right?
And then the last question is, what's one fun fact about yourself that nobody really knows?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd probably say, I mentioned it, like going down YouTube rabbit holes at night. Like sometimes for me to just wind down, I'll just go down these random YouTube rabbit holes, and I found some like amazing content out there, right? Like one channel I found, it's called like the B1M. It's all about like architecture and stuff. Here I am as a finance, I'm like, well, architecture, but it's just crazy. Like just like the amount of stuff that you can learn out there. There's like episodes about like how airports are made and like the logistics, and it's all, oh, that's like fascinating, right? You would never think about it. And then there's, what's another channel I found? There's this guy named Post 10, I think. All he does is go around unclogging like culverts and stuff. Do you know what a culvert is? It's a pipe underneath a road that drains water from like rivers and ponds, so it doesn't like take over the road or anything like that. And beavers are known to dam these up because they want to build massive ponds, right? So like before this guy, I didn't even know that. I felt like beavers were just like shitty animals, just like messing up like roads and infrastructure. Well, like going through this guy's channel, it's kind of like very fascinating. And actually, again, found like different content about like how beavers help with like droughts and just wildlife and building like these biomes of like different wildlife coming in. So it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I'd say that's one of my guilty pleasures, like going down these YouTube rabbit holes and like learning different stuff. How about you?
Honestly, I do the same thing. So
Yeah.
I definitely, for me, it's more TikTok rabbit holes.
Yeah.
I catch myself on learning so much different stuff. Especially, I like to go on more like nature, like animals. So I love learning like random things about animals.
Okay.
And
Any specific animals or no? Just like,
no, like
just
yeah,
random.
literally, I'll somehow and just like different places to travel to. Like I've seen so much nice places that I didn't even know existed.
Okay.
It's on TikTok. It was like, oh yeah, I want to go there one day. I want to do this.
That'd be cool. Are those part of your goals as a CEO? You're all like, yeah, I want to build this up and like,
yeah, I definitely,
travel's like huge.
yeah.
Okay.
For me, I wasn't really big into traveling like growing up because I played video games. So I didn't even think about traveling all that stuff.
You and me both.
But TikTok really made me realize that there's so much cool places in the world that I would actually love to travel to. So
it's cool how like technology has opened all that up, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like before even TikTok or even like before, like it's crazy to think like YouTube's a thing, right? Mm-hmm. The amount of like video content that's uploaded on this platform like daily, or Google bought this thing back and like people are all like, what? It's just like a video thing, and it's like one of the most dominant entertainment like things out there as far as like media sources go. And who even knows like what comes next, right? With AI and stuff like that.
I think it's funny you said that because I just seen that there's like this new platform where it's just AI content. It's just like TikTok and Instagram. You scroll on, it's just straight AI content.
I've seen like a lot of some YouTube videos with those AI modulated voices where like people will just create and then they'll just do these random like scenes and videos and stuff. But yeah, it's funny because like people, like I know Google said they wanted to shy away from it because it's not supporting real people and like narrators and stuff, but then they went back on it and stuff. So it's very fascinating because the thing with AI is too, like jobs will get taken over, but at the same time, jobs will also be created, right? It involves energy and infrastructure and like these data centers need to be maintained, right? So you always need like employees, engineers, and there's gonna be different skills. Even though AI is kind of like eliminated, like for example, like software engineers, right? Software engineers are big on coding and stuff. I just come in and been like, hey, I can just do this. And so like these tech companies were hiring these software engineers for all like over $100,000 salaries, like for some people in California. And then like in a weird way, just overnight, like within the year, like that career has just been eliminated. So part of, I would say too, like going back to being a CEO is all like, are you choosing the right type of business? Is this a business that can survive innovation and stuff, or how do you pivot and adjust? Do you see it threatening your side of things?
No, I don't see it because what I'm doing is impacting like the actual, like more like human connection side of that. I don't think AI can be able to go into these schools and really help kids really connect and realize that they can truly achieve their dreams. Like I don't see an AI video making the same impact as a person going into the school and really
I agree. I think like for my side of things, like AI will definitely help with whether it's like money management or dealing with the aspects of like technology on the back end. But I think there's always going to be a human need for like careers like such as ours. And I would say even today, like there's such a shortage of like trade schools for like, sometimes like people are like, hey, I want to be a CEO and do this. You can do it being a plumber. You can do it doing HVAC. It's not going to come in and fix your pipes. Like you're still going to need a person to come out. Will AI come and help diagnose stuff? Sure. Like whether it's through glasses or whatever it may be, right? I think there was always going to be an impact on these things, but there's such a need and there's such a shortage. So I would even say, like, to people out there listening, is like, trade schools are huge. There's always a need for these, like electricians, plumbers, HVAC. There's such a need for these fields, and they're very resistant to AI. Even with like robots building, I just don't see it.
Right? Yeah, I think it's funny you said that, because my dad, he said that a couple of years ago. He was like, all the new technology, everything, trading, when trades are going to be the ones that are going to be the most successful.
Yeah,
because of their jobs aren't going to be getting taken away.
Yeah.
No, technology doesn't threaten somebody that needs to go fix your plumbing or your electricity.
Yeah. If your furnace goes and your pipes burst, no, you're calling a plumber, and then he or she is working overtime, right? And like, it's money, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, those sorts of businesses I feel will always somewhat be there. So I would say I'd say for like business owners that are looking to get into entrepreneurs too, if you're talking to people and whatnot, I just mention it'd be like, hey, like trade schools are great, but like some people think, hey, you can't be your own business owner, and that's not true. You can be your business owner and do whatever you want. I would say the one thing people don't say this in schools and stuff, because I feel like sometimes schools train people to be more so employees, right? And you can have that conversation now with maybe even college too, with how expensive things are. Is college even worth it? Or can you develop these skills? Are skills more important to get you to where you need to be? And as far as the IRS and the US government goes, our tax code is built to incentivize not your employee as a W-2 person, but your business owner, right? Because your business owners are the ones that are going to grow and then going to hire people and stuff like that. So the IRS gives you leeways to write off and do stuff for business owners. So I think sometimes people don't think about that too. And they're all like, hey, I make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 as an engineer, but you can't do anything and you have to pay huge amounts of taxes, right? So where's the tax incentive there? Whereas sometimes you can maybe even do that yourself than just being an entrepreneur, right? CEOs. I don't know. Have you dealt with CEOs like that in the past where they're all like, they never thought about it and then they just figured it out and stumbled into it? I'm sure you read that a lot.
Most of the people that I've been to, they didn't even think about being a CEO.
Yeah.
They just kind of, like you said, it just fell in. It didn't fall into their hands, but a lot of times it was people telling them that they should go get it, or like there's a position where they could have got and apply for the role and them getting it. So it was never, most of them weren't like, I knew I was going to be a CEO. It was more of like, I somehow found my way through it throughout my career.
What do you like being about a CEO? What are the good things? What are the bad things?
So far, my favorite part of everything I was doing is really the impact I'm making with the work we're doing by really helping the next generation realize that their dreams can come true, and that we're teaching them other ways to become successful. Like you said, school is just teaching everybody how to become employees.
Yeah.
No, we're not. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I also want them to see different lenses and like learn that they can be their own bosses, that they can be part of the C-suite as well. Because a lot of times when you're in school and you're not being taught what a CEO is, what a CMO is, CFO, nobody's teaching you those skills. So we're going into these schools and teaching them that there's more to it than just being at McDonald's like your whole life. McDonald's isn't bad. Like my dad, he always used the example of McDonald's. Like people try to clown you for working at McDonald's, but if you have a plan, you can
hard work.
You can end up owning that McDonald's.
Sure, we can franchise it. Yeah. A lot of times too, here's the thing, like not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone's going to be a CEO, right? Which is fine, right? Like, some people are wanting to be comfortable and make that consistent money and have that stability. And that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, I would say not everyone should sometimes go that route, and just be a little more open-minded to these things, right? And so what you're doing, I think, is honestly huge, because especially in Springfield, if you don't have these resources where you can talk to people, right? It's who's going to tell you to like, hey, this is an avenue you can go about, right? And then like sometimes people, like you said, right, they like clown on like working at McDonald's and stuff. Those jobs are made for entry-level positions, right? If you're like working, like if you weren't a CEO and you were going to school and you needed to pay like, some bills and be able to eat and do some stuff, right? Like entry-level jobs are like great for that because they're flexible and whatnot. But as you grow up, like you should push yourself, whether it's like a different job or anything like that. So I think sometimes people get stuck in ruts too. And that could probably just be like human knowledge. I think technology sometimes is to blame with that. It's easier to just swipe and just keep going. than to like just open up a book. Or I'd even say, again, like YouTube's like great, right? You may not know there's so much content. Harvard puts a lot of content out there. I was just watching something the other day where it was like I forget who it was. It was like, I think it was like the president of the business side, or it was like a dean or something like that. But he was talking about how it's actually good to be bored sometimes, because our brains are always stimulated and want to do something, whether it's on our phone, if we're out in the waiting room, are you just going to like stare and be bored, or are you going to pretend to do something or just take out your phone, right? But they've done research on this and they've seen like just being bored like helps rewire your brain, and it's actually good for your mental health overall. It's resetting yourself. As long as you can push yourself past that, oh my God, like I need to get to my phone, or I need to do this or whatnot. Sometimes being bored is just like crucial, right? So there's so much knowledge, just so many random things that like you could do to improve, whether it's like diet, exercise. So like podcasts like this are great, I'm sure, because you like meet with different people. Do you see yourself writing another book?
Yeah, so we actually do have another book. So we have this Realistic CEO, and Unrealistic.
Okay.
And Unrealistic is through the lens of what I've learned in the past year of being a CEO, and also through the lens of my dad. So it's like a back and forth conversation that we're having while teaching other people.
Like a podcast and a book?
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
say it's like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's out or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Any other books in the plan?
So we want to have the whole C-suite of books. So I am a CEO is like the first of.
That's like the echelon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So it's like a whole thing you're creating. How do you see technology impacting books or anything with Kindles and stuff like that? Does that impact anything for you, or?
So it could, because we don't have it on yet, but if you have it on Amazon, have a digital download and you can read the book. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
In making that, but it definitely impacts, because it'll be easier for people to access the book.
Sure.
Our books online. Yeah.
Part of it is, and I don't know if you've done studies on this or not, is what based on your demographic and whatnot, does it even make sense to do that, right? So
yeah, right now it really doesn't. So our goal is we want kids reading like actual reading books. So we don't have that. Right now, I don't have them on online, because we want kids getting the book with physically. Actually hard copy books. Yeah.
I think, don't quote me on this, I think I saw a study where it was I think people get more out of a physical book than an e-reader or whatnot. I forget where it was or what it said, but I think that's kind of what it's. Cool. What are your goals in the following years?
Yeah, so the big goal in the next 5 years is to be able to distribute 500,000 copies of Realistic CEO. So we mainly do it through schools, but we normally have community reinvestment partners. So what that is, we have businesses come in and help us, because right now we have a waiting list of about 64 schools wanting us to come in. Yeah. And we just don't have the money to be able to fund all the giving
for the books to give them out to these kids.
So we invite businesses to be a part of our journey and helping us give out the books.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay, so you'll get like sponsorships to like help. That's awesome. Okay. So that's one of your goals. Anything else, or?
So the goal with the podcast is I want to get Shaq.
You want to get Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal is insane. This guy has a business for everything, right?
That was like why I wanted him. Because he went from athlete to straight businessman. Like you said, he does like everything.
And he's like super generous too, right? If people stumble in, he'll buy something for people like every day. Like I think I've seen him like just buying. Like he was at a Walmart and he like bought this kid like a bicycle and like clothes and stuff like that, right? He's like super generous with his wealth too. But yeah, the guy, wasn't he like part of the general insurance? Like he was like an insurance, like advertisements. Like he has like footwear, right? All that. Yeah, the guy's like crazy. He's like probably a multi-millionaire. Have you seen like early interviews with him too, by the way, or no?
Nah. Or how was he early?
Like early interviews, he talks about like how he just blew through his money with like his basketball salary. He bought like his mom and his dad a brand new car, like a new Benz, because I've never had this amount of money. So going back to like planning, right? I think like his planner, whoever they had affiliated through the NBA that like works with these guys, came and it's all like, listen, you got this like big check, but look at where you are already. Like you bought yourself a car, he brought it home, and then his dad, right? It was his dad. Yeah, your dad knows. His dad was all like, where's mine? So then he took his dad and then they brought back their cars. And I think their mom was all like, I got to buy my mom that one now too. So he like in one day he like blew through like a huge percentage of his like salary, right? So if you look Shaq too, like some of his interviews like early on are insane. Where he's just, but he talks about he like failed into it and he's all right. I'm gonna be much more smart about his money. I'm like, I feel like even a lot of sports people don't do that, like especially like football, like where these guys like put their bodies on the line and they're only limited for a certain amount of years, right? They make good money, but then are most people telling them, hey, this isn't a permanent thing, put that money aside and invest it so you can live off of it? Because a lot of these people end up with like huge issues with like their bodies and stuff like that. And then some even end up on disability. And if they can't work, right? Did anyone talk to them about getting like disability cover? Right? Like it's crazy. No one talks about this stuff. Everyone's all, yeah, football, yeah, basketball. But like basketball, I think is like terrible too, like arthritis and stuff like that, right? That's why I like Shaq's line. He's huge, right? But like Shaq was like so smart with his money. I'd be curious to see like how it transferred from like the beginning to like where it is now.
Yeah.
So you're you're a big Shaq fan. That's like the goal.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure you would do it if you could. You got to get that cloud going.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other like far like star goals or anything like that, or?
No.
Shaq's a big one.
Yeah.
You don't want to make your way up slowly, or all like maybe I don't know, like you have no one, anyone local or anything, where you're all like that'd be cool.
Into a lot of people local. Yeah.
It's a humble brag.
Yeah.
Interviewing quite a few people. You know?
Yeah. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Realistic CEO podcast. I appreciate all the support that you have shown me in becoming a realistic CEO. Way that you can support even more is by going onto our website at www.realisticceo.com, and you can either shop, donate, or become a community investment partner. See you in the next episode. Peace.